Hey, vlog number 12. Welcome. Don't want to talk off topic because I've got a lot to talk about in 10 minutes. Yesterday watched the National Geographic Channel special 9/11 Science vs. Conspiracy. And already in the title, they're making obviously a hypothesis that the conspiracy theory is not science. So the program was pretty much a joke, laughable at that until about the last half hour where they proceeded to psychologically evaluate myself and other people who question science and the reasoning and evidence behind 9/11. But in the first hour and a half, they basically did experiments and talked about the hypothesis of what the truth community believes. People like Stephen Jones, David Ray Griffin, architect and engineer Richard Gage, and Dylan Avery from Loose Change. I basically got them to watch experiments that the National Geographic Channel pulled off to counter their claims. One of the most ludicrous, absurd experiments that they did was in order to claim that the fire weakened the steel beams so much that it caused the building to collapse entirely. They basically dug a hole, probably like a rectangular hole, probably like 10 feet by maybe 30 feet long or so. Filled it up with 700 gallons of jet fuel. Took one flimsy steel beam and put 3,000 pounds of weight on it and ignited the fuel. And of course, within 3 minutes, the steel beam gave way and buckled. Well, they're claiming that 10,000 gallons of jet fuel were on those planes, and that it spilled all over inside the building and the subsequent floors below at the trade towers. But as you would notice if you watch the attacks, that majority of that fuel was burned up by the fireball outside the building. So at least half of that gas was fuel was burned up before it even got a chance to ignite and go inside the buildings. Majority of the fires inside the buildings were office supplies, office furniture, chairs, computers, and whatnot. They had, quote, experts from Purdue University, MIT, people who did computer generated analysis and models of what happened. But when it came down to why the building collapsed entirely, they just showed a little graphic with where the impact zone was and said this is 15 floors, and it was like a pile driver just driving down. Well, I mean, say for instance floors 10 through 30 have been holding up 90 to 70 floors for over 30 years. Those floors were unaffected. How did the building have a collapse at nearly free fall speed into the path of most resistance when the bottom half of the building was unaffected by fire and by impact damage? So they just blew that over. They just showed why and really didn't talk upon it, because the truth is they can't explain why the building's totally collapsed or why it didn't tilt over. No one can explain why the core just totally disappeared. If the collapse, quote, pancake theory that they originally came up with and then they denounced, if that was the case, you would have had the core column still intact, but everything was gone. How did it complete the collapse? So you have that. You had them analyzing why conspiracy theories, why people believe them. brought up Pearl Harbor, but didn't bring up the fact that the Project for a New American Century, which involved many people inside the Bush administration a year prior to 9/11, wrote a document calling for a new Pearl Harbor in order to start wars in the Middle East. They didn't even bring that up. They didn't bring up the fact that Building 7 fell. They showed it, but didn't even touch it. They attempted to debunk what hit the Pentagon by using a projectile being shot down a track, aluminum projectile into a wooden chicken coop, to show, oh, this is what happens when an object penetrates through something, and they showed a pound of explosive and what it did to this chicken coop. Oh, it's obviously not a missile because it would have blew up the Pentagon. So that was pretty asinine too. They also tried to burn a steel beam with thermite, even though that what has been found in the dust samples is something extremely high grade, not just regular thermite found in sparklers, but actual military grade super nanothermite that have been found in dust samples of the dust of the World Trade Towers, unexploded active thermite. They didn't have access to that, of course, so they couldn't use that, so they tried to debunk it using regular thermite, which, of course, the military has the high power stuff. So you had all this stuff going on, and at the end, the last half hour, you basically have them analyzing and psychoanalyzing why we think the way we think. So we want to build a fairy tale world where we basically transpose our reality over what reality is. It's the blue pill, red pill mentality of the Matrix. You take the red pill, you see the world for really what it is, and you take the blue pill, and there's Al-Qaeda, and there's swine flu that's somehow naturally was made in nature and whatnot. So National Geographic, just in time for the 9/11 anniversary, 8 years after we still have so many unanswered questions. They threw Van Jones under the bus because he apparently had signed a petition asking for a new investigation. You have the commissioners of the 9/11 Commission on record in their book and on video on C-SPAN, Lee Hamilton and Thomas Keane, both saying that the commission was set up to fail. So yes, 9/11 is still the reason why we're in Afghanistan, according to our new president, and things will continue to go on. And so happy 9/11 anniversary. Do yourself a favor, investigate it. There's a lot more there than what you know. That's about it. Thanks, Jill and Brian and Campbell, for coming down and hanging out with us this past weekend. Hope all is well. Take care. Bye.